Brexit will be undone. That's according to arch Remainer and former Prime Minister Sir Tony Blair. He's coming up a lot on this show. He has a lot to say. He says that we will eventually rejoin the bloc, saying a future generation will take Britain back into the political and economic union. This follows a recent Delta poll survey a week ago, which showed a total of 56% of people would vote to rejoin if a second referendum was held. Polling like this or not, is there really a desire to re-enter the European Union? So, speaking with me now is Deputy Leader of the Rejoin EU party, Richard Morley. Thank you very much indeed, Richard. You must be delighted by Tony Blair's intervention.
Well, I mean, I was pleased that Tony Blair has put into the public what a lot of us already know, that Brexit basically has gone wrong. Well,
OK, to the point there. Why has it gone wrong, Richard?
Well, I don't think that it had very good foundations in the beginning. The basic problems that we have is that without the European trading bloc alongside us, we are now forced to look around the world for other trade deals. And that, of course, is straining the economy because we simply aren't finding them to the same extent as we had with Europe. And that has caused immense problems. But may I say this at this stage, that the biggest problem, I think, is for small businesses. Small businesses in Britain have really been hit very, very hard by Brexit. And, there are thousands of them, tens of thousands of small businesses employing millions of people, and they have suffered enormously. And perhaps the greatest move towards our party has been from people who are in small business and the young. We hear that 86% of under 25-year-olds, 86%, are now wanting to rejoin the EU. And you said earlier on that children are the future in your previous debate, which I was listening to.
I did.
Absolutely right.
Well, Richard...
And children are the future, and young people are saying, we want to go back in. And that's why the move is towards us.
I think that reflects the current state of things. So, because the economy is having a difficult time at the moment, we've come out of a pandemic, the cost of living, inflation, people will say, oh, why not join the EU? Because, it might be better than the current status quo. I'm not sure it's some massive enthusiasm, but I'm interested in the psychology of people like you who spend a lot of time campaigning to rejoin the EU. The vote was, 7 years ago now? Is it time to let it go and start looking at all the opportunities? Would you have us out of the CPTPP, for example, that new trading arrangement that we've joined?
Well, I wouldn't have us out of that trade arrangement, but let's look at this realistically. That trade arrangement is not going to give anything more than 0.08% increase to our GDP, and that is forecasted in the mid-2030s. We have to wait years to draw any benefits from that trade deal.
But Richard, it doesn't come, this is the issue, it doesn't come with the political strings attached that the European Union did. The reason why Britain rejected the European Union in that vote was, in my view, because of this mantra of ever closer union, talk of an army, talk of military coordination, talk of essentially a superstate. And it's written throughout the literature on the European Union. It's there in black and white. People aren't stupid. They saw it and said, if we don't get off now, we're going to lose our opportunity to veto policies we don't like. We're going to lose our own voice. We'd rather keep sovereignty in this country so at least we can hold our own politicians to account rather than all the bureaucrats on the Brussels gravy train.
Well, of course, had one state of America decided the same route before the United States was formed, then we would be in the same sort of position as that. But of course,
there you go. You want a United States of Europe.
America was formed by the Union of States, previously independent, coming together and forming a collective union. And that has made America extremely powerful and extremely successful. And if we now opt out of that European model, we are basically losing the opportunity of joining with Europe and having their success being ours. You talk about sovereignty as if sovereignty, in actual fact, is the key issue. I don't think it is. I think the key issue is the benefit for ordinary people in Britain being able to live a decent life and not having to go through the problems that they're going through at the moment, which are legion.
But you know what? I would challenge you on the European Union being this paradigm of virtue. I'm presuming that you are not of the far-right persuasion, Richard. But a lot of countries in Europe are heading in that direction, which presumably you are quite worried about. The rise of the far-right, the rise of nationalist parties. Do you wonder maybe that more countries might follow Britain's path, or at least try to put obstacles in the way of the European Union, and that there might not actually be something worth rejoining?
Is going to be followed quite shortly. Now, whether it's going to be Denmark with a Dexit, or the Netherlands with an exit, or Sweden with a Sexit, I don't know. Brexit is the first brick that has been knocked out of the wall. 3,
Georgia, Moldova and Ukraine, have officially applied for candidate status since the Brexit vote. On top of that, polling suggests that support for the EU within member states is at record levels, with strong majorities approving of the EU's handling of Ukraine and little appetite for leaving the bloc.
Well, you talk about the rise of the far right. It was back Britain that led the way in the rise of extreme right-wing
politics. Rubbish, Richard.
Face it, now let me come in. The Tory party under Boris Johnson was not really a standard Conservative party that I had grown up with, or that Michael Heseltine had grown up with. It had changed. It moved further to the right. And that drift we can see in Europe as well, in some countries, because, of course, when there is a crisis, right-wing methodology to solve it is an obvious solution for many people in their logic. However, you said about, I don't think that Europe is a paragon of virtue, is what you said. I think Europe does need to reform. I am completely in agreement with many people who say this. And Britain should be inside Europe leading that reform.
Embark on a majestic journey with the Rejoin EU party and support our cause on Patreon. Be part of the movement.
Vote Rejoin EU. Join the EU vision.